In the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, lived a couple named Chike and Amara. Chike was a tall, strong man with a booming voice, while Amara was a slender woman with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. To the outside world, they appeared to be a happy, successful couple, but at home, things were different. Chike and Amara had no children of their own, and this often made them feel lonely. They decided to visit the local orphanage, hoping to find a child to adopt. After walking through the rows of children, their eyes fell on a small girl named Ifeoma. Ifeoma was about 7 years old, with big, curious eyes and a shy smile. She had been at the orphanage for as long as she could remember, dreaming of the day someone would take her home. Chike and Amara looked at each other and nodded. They decided to adopt Ifeoma. The director of the orphanage, Mrs. Adiola, was pleased and quickly arranged the paperwork. She gave Ifeoma a warm hug and told her, "You are going to a new home, my dear. Be strong and brave." Ifeoma was excited but also nervous. She had heard stories from other children about how some adoptive parents were kind, while others were not. She prayed in her heart that Chike and Amara would be kind. At first, things seemed fine. Chike and Amara gave Ifeoma her own room, decorated with bright colors and toys. But it didn't take long for their true nature to show. Chike often yelled at Ifeoma for the smallest mistakes, like dropping a spoon or forgetting to close a door. Amara was no better. She made Ifeoma do all the house chores, from sweeping the floors to washing the dishes. While she watched, Ifeoma tried her best to please them. But no matter what she did, it was never enough. She was often hungry, as Amara gave her only small portions of food and made her eat alone in the kitchen. Ifeoma missed the orphanage, where at least she had friends and was treated with kindness. One evening, after a long day of scrubbing the floors, Ifeoma sat on her small bed and cried softly. She wondered why Chike and Amara treated her so badly. She wished she could run away, but she had nowhere to go. Just then, she heard a knock on her door. It was Chike. "What are you crying about now?" he asked harshly. Ifeoma quickly wiped her tears and shook her head. "Nothing, sir. I'm sorry." Chike frowned but said nothing more. He turned and left, leaving Ifeoma alone in the dark. That night, as she lay in bed, Ifeoma made a silent promise to herself. She would find a way to be strong and not let Chike and Amara break her spirit. She would survive, no matter what. Weeks passed, and Ifeoma's life continued in the same harsh routine. Each day, she woke up early to clean the house, prepared breakfast for Chike and Amara, and went to bed tired and hungry. But Ifeoma held on to her promise to stay strong, even though her heart ached for love and kindness. One day, as Ifeoma was washing dishes in the kitchen, she heard a knock at the front door. She quickly dried her hands and ran to open it. Standing there was an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She wore a colorful wrapper and a headscarf that reminded Ifeoma of the stories her grandmother used to tell her before she passed away. "Good afternoon, my dear," the woman said gently. "Is Amara at home?" Ifeoma nodded and called for Amara, who appeared moments later. The moment Amara saw the elderly woman, her expression changed. She forced a smile and greeted her, "Mama Nkechi." "What a surprise. Please, come in." Mama Nkechi entered the house and sat down in the living room. She looked around, noticing the spotless floors and the neatly arranged furniture. "Your home is very clean, Amara," she said, glancing at Ifeoma. "I see you have a little helper." Amara's smile faded slightly. "Yes. We adopted Ifeoma a few months ago. She helps with the housework." Mama Nkechi nodded but didn't say anything. She watched Ifeoma carefully, sensing the sadness in the girl's eyes. After a while, she turned to Amara and said, I would like to speak with Ifeoma alone, if you don't mind. Amara hesitated but couldn't refuse. Of course, Mama Nkechi. Ifeoma, go with her. Ifeoma led Mama Nkechi to the small garden at the back of the house. They sat down on a wooden bench, and for a moment, there was silence. Finally, Mama Nkechi spoke softly, "My child, how are you being treated here?" Ifeoma looked down, not sure if she should tell the truth. She didn't want to get in trouble, but she also longed for someone to understand her pain. Slowly, she whispered, "I do my best, Mama Nkechi, but they are never happy with me." Mama Nkechi reached out and gently lifted Ifeoma's chin, making her look into her eyes. "You are a good girl, Ifeoma, remember that. And no matter how hard things get, never lose hope." Before Ifeoma could say anything, Mama Nkechi stood up and said, "I must go now, but I will visit again soon. Be strong, my dear." As she left, Ifeoma felt a small spark of hope in her heart. Maybe things would change. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ifeoma lay awake, thinking about Mama Nkechi's words. She decided that she wouldn't let Chike and Amara's cruelty destroy her spirit. She would keep her head high and wait for a better day. Little did Ifeoma know that Mama Nkechi was not just an ordinary visitor. She had seen something in Ifeoma that made her determined to help. Mama Nkechi was well respected in the community and had the power to change Ifeoma's life. But how and when would she do it? As the days went by, Ifeoma noticed small changes. Chike seemed less harsh, and Amara didn't scold her as often. It was as if Mama Nkechi's visit had made them reconsider their actions. But was it enough to make them truly change? Or was something else at play? The answer would come sooner than Ifeoma expected, in a way she never imagined. Days turned into weeks, and Ifeoma continued to notice small changes in Chike and Amara's behavior. They were not as harsh as before, but they still kept a distance from her. Ifeoma couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen, something big. One evening, as Ifeoma was folding laundry in her room, she heard a loud argument coming from the living room. She tiptoed to the door and listened closely. Chike and Amara were arguing, their voices rising with each word. "We can't keep her here anymore, Chike." Amara shouted, "Mama Nkechi keeps asking questions, and I'm afraid she'll find out how we've been treating Ifeoma. We can't afford to get in trouble." Chike's voice was gruff as he responded, "What do you want to do? Send her back to the orphanage? That will raise even more questions." Amara was silent for a moment. Then she said quietly, "Maybe we should just get rid of her. No one would know." Ifeoma's heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Were they really planning to send her away, or worse? Before she could think further, there was a sudden knock on the door. The room fell silent. Amara opened the door, and there stood Mama Nkechi, her expression serious. "I heard everything," Mama Nkechi said, her voice calm but firm. "I knew something was wrong, so I came to check on Ifeoma." Chike and Amara exchanged nervous glances. "Mama Nkechi, we were just talking," Amara stammered, trying to cover up their conversation. Mama Nkechi raised her hand to silence her. "I don't want to hear any more lies. Ifeoma is coming with me." Ifeoma, who had been trembling in the hallway, stepped forward. Mama Nkechi's eyes softened when she saw her, and she extended her hand. "Come, my child, you don't have to stay here any longer." Without a second thought, Ifeoma ran to Mama Nkechi and hugged her tightly. She felt safe for the first time in a long time. Chike and Amara stood frozen, unsure of what to do. They knew they couldn't stop Mama Nkechi. She was too respected in the community, and any attempt to argue would only make things worse for them. As Mama Nkechi led Ifeoma out of the house, she turned back to Chike and Amara. You should be ashamed of yourselves. A child is a blessing, not a burden. Ifeoma deserves love and care, and I will make sure she gets it. Ifeoma looked up at Mama Nkechi with tears in her eyes. Thank you, Mama Nkechi, she whispered. Mama Nkechi smiled down at her. You're safe now, Ifeoma. No one will hurt you again. As they walked away from the house, Ifeoma felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew it would be better than the past. Mama Nkechi had saved her, and she was ready to start a new chapter in her life. But what Ifeoma didn't know was that this new chapter would bring even more surprises, ones that would test her strength and courage in ways she never imagined.